I could get counsel to come on screen. Thank you. I would note that Councillor Porter has sent her regrets. Councillor Parks and Councillor Gordon are supposed to be here, but they have expressed to me that they're having some technical difficulties. We do have quorum at this point, so we will start the meeting and proceed, and hopefully Councillors Parks and Gordon will be able to join in. With that, I will call the meeting to order for 7 o'clock. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this 53rd session of Council on this Monday, September the 13th. And we welcome all those in attendance, and note that this is a virtual meeting, and as such, like a regular meeting, the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, our Council's Rules of Procedure, Code of Conduct, and other pertinent legislation apply to these proceedings as if they were an in-person meeting. Right. As usual, if any members of Council's connection to this meeting is lost, we will pause for a moment to allow the member to reconnect. If they fail to do so, assuming we have quorum, still have quorum, we will continue with the meeting in their absence. And so at this time, as I say, we have a call to order. We were in closed sessions running from roughly 6:15 to 6:40. We went into closed session to review and approve the closed session minutes and review a personal matter about an identifiable individual. Coming out of closed, we report that we have approved the closed session minutes of August the 9th, and direction has been provided with regard to the other issue. And for tonight, for open forum, we do not traditionally have open forum during virtual meetings unless the person has contacted and provided that indication to the clerk. At this time, I will ask the clerk, has there been anyone who has identified their wish to present at open forum?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay, if there's anyone in attendance that wishes to, I would ask that you raise your hand now using the hand signal. There are several public meetings on this agenda, and you will be able to speak then as well if that's the item you're here for. I'm seeing none. We will move forward to the public meetings. All right, the first one, item 4.1, is a public meeting regarding Loyalist Country Club Estates Phase 8 Bath Zoning Bylaw Amendment. Public meeting is being held in accordance with the provision of sections 3412 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 to consider an amendment to the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2001-38 as amended. The proposed amendment applies to property described as part of Lot 9, Concession 1 on Registered Plan 29R8210, being Phase 8 of the Loyalist Country Club Estates in Bath. The proposed amendment to the Loyalist Township Zoning Bylaw 2001-38 as amended, if approved, will affect 9 lots within Phase 8 of the Loyalist Country Club Estate subdivision, and upon coming into force and effect, will rezone the lands in residential type in the residential type 3 exception 20 holding zone, R320H, to reduce the lot area from 370 square meters to 350 square meters. Council shall hear in person or by his or her counsel, solicitor, or agent any person who claims to be affected by this application. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this at this time? And again, I turn to the clerk. Is there any indication?
I believe the agent would like to speak. I've just invited in.
And the agent, oh, Ms. Jones. And welcome, Ms. Jones.
Mr. Mayor. I will just give a very brief presentation, if that's okay. Am I allowed to share my screen?
And absolutely, but when you do so, we'll have to check to make sure that everybody can see it appropriately.
Okay.
All right, to the members of council, everyone nodding, they can see the shared screen appropriately. I do see clearance. Go ahead, Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a plan from the staff report that illustrates where phase 8 is, sorry, within the greater context. So you can see that there is Main Street to the south of it, Country Club Drive is to the west of it, and it's south of Abidon Road. So there is a stormwater management pond just sort of to the southwest corner of the subdivision, and that is adjacent to the lots in question. So the phase 8 itself has a area of 7.3 hectares. It's designated low density residential in the official plan. It's draft plan approved for 132 units that are comprised of single and semi-detached lots. And as you mentioned, we have 9 lots that are requesting for rezoning, and they're shown on the screen here outlined in red. So they're on the south side of Oakmont Drive, just as you're entering this particular phase. This is a copy of the draft M plan, which is in the process of, we're in the process of finalizing the draft plan of subdivision. So these lots were in fact draft plan approved with this lot size. There was an oversight in terms of dealing with the zoning, because these particular lots are only 32 meters deep compared to 35 meters within the rest of the subdivision. They are slightly smaller in area than is permitted by the zoning bylaw. The reason that these lots have a shorter depth to them than the other lots is because of the location, the access point from coming in from Country Club Drive. That location is fixed now. The stormwater pond to the south is fixed as well. And so we had to keep the road in that particular location. So as I mentioned, the lot depth is 32 meters. In order to meet the zoning bylaw requirements, we would have needed a lot depth of 33.6 meters. We do have a variety of other 11-meter lots within the subdivision that all meet the minimum area requirements. So it's just these 9 lots in question. And as I indicated, they do back onto the stormwater management pond to the south. So in our mind, you know, the slightly smaller lot area is not going to have any impact on any of the adjoining lots to the south. The minimum rear yard setback of 7.5 meters would continue to be in place, and the same with all the other zone provisions in this particular zone. So it will result in a very small change in the lot size. We think that there's still sufficient amenity space on the lots, and it still meets the density requirements within the official plan. So we have provided some examples of the house designs that are being proposed for these particular lots. So we think that they do provide for attractive development within the subdivision, and will provide for compatible development with, you know, the rest of the community. So those are my submissions, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jones. Council, do we have any questions for Ms. Jones on this? I'm seeing none at the moment. Thank you. And I will ask you to stop sharing your screen then.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And if there are no further questions for Ms. Jones, I will say thank you very much, Ms. Jones, for the presentation.
Thank you, sir.
With that, Council, we have the report before us. And I see that our staff member, Ms. Furness, is here to answer any questions you might have with regard to that. Ms. Furness, do you have any comments ahead of questions?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, the consultant's agent, Lorelei Jones, summarized it quite well. So just to comment again that it was an oversight in the zoning when the zoning bylaw amendment was originally done for Loyalist Estates Phase 8 back in 2018. So staff are supportive of the zoning bylaw amendment changes. We do feel it conforms with the official plan and is consistent with provincial policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And would note at this time that Councillor Parks has been able to join us. Glad you got through the technical glitches. And with that, Council, do we have any final questions for staff? Seeing none, I look for a motion. And I'll go to Councillor Townend.
I move to receive the report and adopt the recommendation that bylaw number 2021-052 be enacted.
Thank you. That's so moved. Do I have a seconder for that? I'll take Councillor Buderick, a seconder. Any comments from the mover or seconder? Any comments from anyone else? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Jones. And we move to our second public meeting, item 4.2. Council will hold a public meeting to receive comments on the proposed changes to the Loyalist Township Procedural By-law 2018-090 as outlined in Bylaw number 2021-057. The copy is attached. Notice is hereby given. The council at its regular scheduled meeting, regular scheduled meeting on September 27th intends to adopt Bylaw 2021-057, being a bylaw to amend the procedural bylaw 2018-091 regarding section 11.1. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this public meeting on this issue? To the clerk, do you have any?
I don't, Your Worship. I do have a minor PowerPoint or PDF just to outline the changes if anyone so wishes.
And I will come back to the public and I'll ask the clerk to present her information.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. It's very quick. So the procedure bylaw amendments, this was presented to council at a committee of the whole. It speaks to the basically just the order of the agenda. So section 11.1, sorry, I'm looking at my other screen, so I apologize. I'm not looking into the camera. So the existing is on the left, the proposed is on the right. So it was just again rearranging the order of the items in order to make it flow with how council currently is having their agendas, and this is including the national anthem and the land acknowledgement under item D. Section 11.1N, which speaks to the consent agenda, would be adding committee minutes for information under that section. And section 11.1P, so updates from members appointed to county council. So this will provide council with the opportunity on any of the committees that they sit or at county council to provide any updates. The upcoming meeting dates, we've moved that up before the adjournment, just basically in case there's any changes or requests for additional meetings. So we've moved that up before the adjournment. And that was the changes that were proposed.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask council if you have any questions with regard to the procedural changes proposed. I'm seeing no questions. And just to make sure, we'll go back to it is a public meeting. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to these issues? There are none. Because we're doing that bylaw on the 27th, we don't need a resolution coming out of this at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay. That will move forward. Item 4.3 is a notice of public meeting. And the backyard hen draft bylaw will be presented at the October 12th, 2021 council meeting for public comment. Item 4.4 is a notice of public meeting, proposed comprehensive amendment update for Loyalist Township's official plan in accordance with section 1715 of the Planning Act will be presented at the September 27th, 2021 council meeting for public comment. And 4.5, notice of public meeting, proposed development charge rates and policies will be presented at the September 27th, 2021 council meeting for public comment. Again, I don't believe I need any resolutions from council for those. Those are notices of meetings. With that, we move forward to confirmation of agenda. Is there anything to add or edit to the agenda as presented?
Not that I'm aware of, Your Worship.
Thank you. And Councillor Townend?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? I'll take the deputy. Thank you. Any comment? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. And then we'll move to minutes. Item 7.1, the confirmation of the minutes of the 52nd session of council, August the 9th, to be presented and adopted. And we have the minutes before us. Are there any noted errors or omissions? I'm seeing none. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes? Deputy, seconded by Councillor Townend. Any comment? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 7.2, confirmation of the minutes of the special council meeting September the 7th be adopted as circulated or amended. Are there any noted errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion. And Councillor Parks, so moved. Do I have a seconder? And Councillor Buderick, thank you. Any comment? I'll call, Councillor Parks, comment, go ahead.
Just a point of order. I'm not sure if I can motion them because I wasn't in attendance at the meeting.
Good point. I will look for another mover. Do I have someone else to move? Councillor Buderick is moving. Councillor Townend is seconding. Thank you. And thank you. I hadn't caught that. Mover and seconder, any comment? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. 7.3, the confirmation of the minutes and the recommendations from the September 7th Committee of the Whole meeting. We have the minutes and the recommendations separated in the agenda. We have them before us. Are there any noted errors or omissions? I'm seeing none. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations? Councillor Townend, so moved. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Deputy, thank you. Any comment? I see none. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to delegations and presentations. There are none. Skipping forward to item 11, Business Services Department Treasurer. We have 11.1, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Agreement for the rehabilitation of Layer Cake Hall. We have the report before us, and we have Mr. Dickey here representing that department. To the director, do you have anything to add to it at this time, Mr. Dickey?
Good evening, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to highlight this report simply to engage or to have the authorization for the agreements to be signed. This funding was previously announced. It's a joint funding between the federal and provincial government for the Layer Cake Hall, the 2021 portion of the renovations. So just simply, so it's nothing new in that regard. It's just approval to sign the required funding agreement with the province.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions with regard to this report and the agreement? Seeing none. Can I get a motion? Councillor Buderick, seconded by Councillor Parks. And any comment from the mover or seconder? No. Anyone else? And then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We move forward to item 11.2, 2021 draft development charges studies and the results of the consultation session. We have the report before us, and Mr. Dickey is here, but also Ms. McNevin is here. Mr. Dickey, I'm assuming you're deferring to Ms. McNevin to speak to this report?
Yes, yeah, this report provides some of the preliminary information from engagement so far. Yeah, so Brianne is our senior financial analyst. Brianne McNevin's here. She's done the bulk of the work on this consultation so far, so she's here to answer any specific questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. McNevin, do you have any comments before I go to council?
Yes, Your Worship. Just a quick update to the staff report. Although we are anticipating written inquiries and comments from the public on the draft study that has been posted on August 26th. As of today, we have not received any submissions, so
Okay.
Nothing new to report. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions for either director or Ms. McNiven? I'm seeing none. Okay. Can I get a motion with regard to the recommendation? Deputy, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tannen, thank you. Okay. Any comments? Okay. I'll say thank you for the information to our staff. Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And we move to 11.3, a non-standard procurement process. We have the report before us, and again, Mr. Dickey is here to speak to it. Do you have any further comment, Mr. Dickey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, nothing new, I don't think, to add to the report. This company did approach us, so we've taken a close look at it. So I think their standard term is 2 years for agreements. Because we want to trial it, and we suggested we switch it to 1 year just to give a chance to try this out. So we've heard good things about this company. So it may enable us to apply for more funding, more different opportunities, and be aware of more opportunities than we would otherwise be. There's a lot coming in. It's hard to keep track of them all, and it takes a lot of time sometimes to fill the applications and to be successful. So this is a trial. So we'll take any questions from council.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions about this report? Councillor Parks, go ahead.
Just one quick question in regards to the percentage of the grants or the fee payable to them. Is it based on a tiered system? So if it's a certain amount of a grant, then it's if it's a lesser grant amount, then it's a lower percentage, or is it a standard percentage?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it is. The standard one is kind of a tier for the lower amounts. It's 1%, and when you get over a certain higher limit, it'll be a higher percentage. So that's correct. So it is a tiered approach.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Dickey at this time? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion. I'll go to Councillor Parks. So moved. Yes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Buderick. Thank you. Any comments? And I'm seeing none. Again, I will say thank you to our staff for exploring this option and giving it a trial to see if it improves our processes. Thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to item 11.4, still with Mr. Dickey. 2021 miscellaneous fees and charges amendments. Mr. Dickey, do you have anything to add to the report at this time?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, nothing more to add. Director McFarland and her staff are here to assist with specific questions on it. This is just an update primarily on some recreation fees. So if there's any questions on those specific fees, Lori and her staff are here. So just for you to take any questions at this point.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions for either Mr. Dickey or Ms. McFarland at this time? Councillor Parks, go ahead.
Sorry, I just more a housekeeping matter, and I just wondered if the definition of parent maybe should be changed to guardian, because it could be a grandparent, it could be a parent. Sorry, in admissions and memberships on page 3 of the document, it defines removed parent and taught swim and replaced with parent and children fees. So I just wondered if maybe that could be cleaned up to include guardians or something like that, because it could be non-parent, or it could be the children was in the CAS custody or something like that. It could be something else beside a parent.
Thank you. To the director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly we can do that. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments with regard to this report at this time? I'm seeing none. Okay. We have a recommendation. I suppose if we're going to do it with that edit, we should do as amended. Okay. Can I get a motion, please? Councillor Parks, so moved, as amended? Yes. And Councillor Townend, you're seconding? Thank you. Any questions or comments, or any comments with regard to the motion? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And we can move forward to Section 12, Community and Customer Services Department. Item 12.1 is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. We have a report and we have the director here before us. Okay. Ms. McFarland, do you have anything to add to the report at this time?
Nothing further, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions before I look for a motion? Seeing none, right, I will look for a motion, please. I'll take the deputy, seconded by Councillor Townend. Right, any comments from the mover or seconder? No? Anyone else? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Moving to Section 13, Corporate Services Department. The Township Clerk, 13.1, the Integrity Commissioner, Loyalist Township Complaint 2021-02, Notice of Dismissal. And to the clerk, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, Your Worship, there's two recommendations on under 12.1. So
My
the
apologies.
one, no, that's okay. So the first recommendation, there's a second recommendation, which is the actual wording that was in the report.
Okay, so we're looking for a second motion under 12.1 to approve the actual wording of the resolution.
Yes, with the township's name in it.
Councillor Townend, so moved.
Yes, Your Worship, and as a point of order, do we need to read it out, or is it acceptable to the clerk to motion to adopt the recommendation?
Through Your Worship, when it is listed on the agenda, it's fine to have it stated that way.
Okay, thank you. And a seconder for that, please. And I'll take Councillor Budrick. Thank you. Any further comment? Anyone? Then I'll call the question again. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And thank you to the clerk for identifying my mistake. We now move on to the clerk's department. Item 13.1, the Integrity Commissioner's report. And to the clerk, do you have anything to add to this report at this time?
I don't, Your Worship. It's just for information unless there's questions.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions with regard to the report before us? I'm seeing no questions. And the recommendation is to receive for information. Do I have a mover? Councillor Parks, so moved. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, thank you. And Councillor Parks or Deputy, do you have any comments? No? Anyone else have comment? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We go to item 13.2, Backyard Hen Draft By-law update. I have a report from the clerk. Report that's the bylaw that never seems to end. Anything to add to this report at this time, Madam Clerk?
No, our apologies. We're trying to get some of the items that have been outstanding under our department back before council. So the idea on this one is to provide how the notice will be given to the public so that they have an opportunity to comment on the draft bylaw, which was amended from the committee of the whole. So those changes were done. So we'll proceed following this meeting. If the report is accepted, then we'll proceed with the aggressive notice period to have bylaw out to the public.
Thank you. And I wasn't complaining about your work on this. I actually greatly appreciate your perseverance on this file. Thank you. And Council, do we have any questions with regard to the report? Deputy, go ahead.
Yes, just the advertising. Again, can we include Kingston this week? Otherwise, the east portion of the township doesn't receive notification. The Napanee Beaver doesn't make it all the way through the township.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have comment or question with regard to this report? Seeing none, right, then the recommendation is to receive, and we'll add that direction of inclusion in that alternate news media. Okay. Can I get a motion, please? Deputy, so moved. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Buderick. Thank you. Right. Any comments? And seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And we go to 13.3, Renewable Energy Vibrancy Policy Update and Amended Terms of Reference. Again, we have a report from the clerk. Madam Clerk, do you have anything to add to this report at this time?
No, Your Worship. The information was updated as was discussed at prior meetings. We've included what we believe were the requests from Council. So the only thing that we'd be looking for is setting a date for the public information session at some point after the report.
Okay, are you looking for Council to set that date?
There was no direction of whether Council wanted it as part of a Council meeting or whether it was acceptable that an alternate date or dates. So the intent is to have one or two public information sessions. They'd be virtual, of course. What we're looking at doing is recording how the information is presented in those public information sessions and then having that on the website. So if somebody does happen to miss, they'd still be able to go on and view those, as well as the frequently asked questions and then a communications plan as well.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Townend, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. I don't know whether this would be necessary in a motion to adopt the recommendations in the report, but I note in the communications plan appendix, part of the plan for the week of October 5th is to have an insert for the township utility bill. Of course, the island doesn't get utility bills, and I wondered if we could add a mailer to go out in the post. It is handy to have physical information passed to people, particularly people who aren't internet savvy, and that's often a way it's done on the island. It's fairly inexpensive to do through the post office, so I wondered if that would be a possibility during that week when they go out in the utility bills on the mainland.
To the clerk, would that be practical?
It would just be a mail out then to the island and not to the remainder of the township, or were you looking for the entire township as a mail out?
No, just the island, because the mainland will get it through their utility bills. For those that aren't on utilities, it would make sense, I guess, to go to them as well. But I don't know.
And I'll look to Council to provide that direction. Accepted the direction of mailed out to the island. Does Council wish it to be mailed out to other non-utility residents? And Councillor Parks, comment?
I would suggest it go to the whole township. People that are not on utilities, people in the rural community might be interested in learning more about this too. And to the clerk, again, the question is it practical and timely to be able to do that?
I would have to resort to our communications person just to see what leadway we'd need in time-wise. It just may, I guess the thing would be is it a separate meeting then outside of Council? If that's the case, then we may adjust the date somewhat from that 5th just in order to meet the mail out on it.
Then we'll come back to that question for discussion of Council. Council, what is the assumption? Is that this would be a during council public meeting, or would this be a separate public information session? Councillor Parks?
My recollection was it was going to be something that was outside of council. It wasn't going to be brought back to council. That was my recollection from our discussions previously.
Mine as well. Right. Anyone else have comment on that? Councillor Buderick?
To the point as well for the rest of the municipality that Councillor Parks mentioned, there are a lot of people even in areas that rent that have their utilities included that would also get a notice this way as well, which would be good. Thank you.
Okay. And so if there are no further questions, and Deputy, go ahead.
Sound like a broken record, but could we include in the newspapers the Kingston this week?
Yes, thank you. Okay. So with that, we have the recommendation to approve the terms of reference as attached and support the direction of the public information session, right, with the further direction of the inclusion of the postal mail out from hearing all non-utility users or all non-utility bill recipients, and inclusion in the alternate press media as well. Right? Is that the to the clerk?
I think it would, I think, again, I'd have to confirm, but the mail out, because it would be considered a bulk mail out, it probably would result in it going based on postal code. So pulling the ones out that would receive, I'm not sure how much it would be to pull out the ones that receive a utility bill, because then I don't think we get the reduced rate on the bulk mail out, but I'd have to double check with that information, Your Worship.
Council, are we comfortable leaving the final details of that decision to staff? Okay. Right. Then I'll look for a motion that includes the direction as we've spoken of, and is the clerk clear on that direction?
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'll look for that motion. Council? Councillor Townend, so moved. Thank you. Seconder? Do I have a seconder for the motion? I'll take the deputy. Okay. Councillor Townend, comment? Deputy, comment? No? Anyone else have comment? Councillor Parks, go ahead.
Are we providing direction in a separate motion in regards to holding this outside of a council meeting? Because I think there was a question on that too.
My apologies. I was under the impression that was included in this motion to keep it as a separate, right? To the mover and seconder. Was that your intent?
That's my understanding, Your Worship.
Okay.
Okay, so the
Thank you.
intention of this motion is to have that as a separate public information session, not during a council meeting. And mover and seconder concurred. Any other comments or questions with regard to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And we move to item 14.1, Economic Growth and Community Development Services Department, the purchase of new Scada computers for the Fairfield Water Treatment Plant. Okay. And we have the report before us, and I see Director Merritt is here to speak to this report. Go ahead, Director.
There's nothing to add. Either if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Deputy, go ahead.
Yeah, if it was in the report, I didn't catch it. This transfer, will it cover the full cost of the replacement of the Scada computers?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, it will. Well, we did get a quote, and yes, it will.
Or I should say, it's anticipated to cover the full cost.
Anticipated.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'll resist the urge to throw out a pop quiz and see if anyone knows what Scada actually stands for. Yes, Director, I believe that you know. I don't, to be honest. Okay. Is there any other questions with regard to this report? I'm seeing none. I'll look for a mover. Deputy, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks, thank you. Any comments from the mover or seconder? Anyone else? I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And we go on to item 14.2, Nelson Store Dock budget transfer. Again, we have a report from the director. Madam Director, do you have anything to add at this time?
No, Your Worship, there's nothing to add at this time. No updates.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions with regards to this? I'm seeing no questions. Then I'll look for a motion. Councillor Townend, so moved. Thank you. Seconder. Deputy, thank you. Comments from the mover or seconder? None. Comments from anyone else? None. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. And we go to item 14.3, Stella 40-foot reconstruction and design budget transfer. Doing a lot of shifting of money around. To the director, do you have anything to highlight or further express about this report?
There is nothing to add, Your Worship, but if I can add, yes, it's the time of year. So a lot of the projects are finishing and then we're moving on down the list and we get update pricing. So it is the season for budget transfer.
Absolutely. Thank you. Members of council, do you have any questions? Councillor Parks, go ahead.
I was just trying, and I apologize, it's probably in the capital work budget, but I was just wondering what the work was on the Simmons Road that is actually being deferred, because that is a fairly high traffic road. If the director knows that.
I don't know that one specifically. I believe the manager of engineering environment is in the audience. If Madam Clerk wants to bring her in, I apologize on the road side. It's a little bit. She should be.
Ms. Campbell, I believe, is coming into the panel. I saw her flip. Where is she?
Just takes a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. There's
There she
Ms.
is.
Campbell. Welcome, Ms. Campbell. Did you hear the question from the councillor?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So through you, the work on Simmons Road is generally resurfacing and some drainage improvement works. It's being deferred because we're just looking and working with Public Works to look at the type of resurfacing that will be used there. And so the two divisions are working together to make sure that that we have what we need moving forward. So we decided to defer till 2022 while some of those decisions were made. So the intent is to still undertake this work in 2022, but it would be rebudgeted through the budget process for next year.
Okay, Councillor Parks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions with regards to this? Seeing none, I look for a motion. Deputy, thank you. Second by Councillor Townend. Thank you. And any comment from mover or seconder? Anyone else? Seeing none, so I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. Thank you. And we move to nothing in emergency services, communications for consideration. We have a request from Courageous Companions. A comment in the agenda that we have not previously contributed to this. Council, what would you like to do with this request? Anyone? I'll take the deputy.
I'll make a motion to receive and provide business card advertising for the township.
I'll take that as a motion. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Townend, thank you. Move or comment?
Yeah, just briefly. I've been trying to research this a little bit, and I know that this is very helpful, the companionship. And I also, the part too that intrigues me is the first responders. So that could hit close to home with the county and municipal staff as well, I think. So I think it's a good idea for us to support them, even if it's a small amount, but give them the support. And over the next year, I hope to be able to receive more information from them, since we are a supporter, and we can all be very confident next year if we make the same move.
Thank you. Seconder comment? Anyone else? And seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. Thank you. Notices of motion or direct motion. Do we have any notices of motion for this evening? I'm seeing no hands. Nothing coming forward. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. For the purpose of convenience and for expediting meetings, matters of business that are repetitive or routine in nature are included in the consent agenda. And all such matters of business contained in the consent agenda are voted on collectively. Any particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or for separate vote upon the request of any member of council. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter of business is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting. Is there anything that any member of council wishes to extract from the consent agenda this evening? Deputy, go ahead.
Item 21.2 from the city of Hamilton.
21.2, thank you. Anything else that someone wishes to extract? I'm seeing no hands. With that, can I get a motion for the remainder of the consent agenda? Take Councillor Parks, second by Councillor Buderick. Okay. Any comments from anyone? Okay, then I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And we go to then 21.2, the City of Hamilton noise concerns. That was separated out by the deputy. Deputy, go ahead.
I'd like to receive and support, and I can speak briefly if it's seconded.
Thank you. That's so moved. Do I have a seconder from Councillor Buderick? Thank you. Go ahead, Deputy.
I just think this has, it has potential to become a bigger beast than what it was intended to be. And noise control and everything is very important, and especially in the more built up areas. And so to be able to take it back to the proper authorities to be able to make the decisions on noise, I believe it's time for that to happen.
Thank you. Seconder comment? Anyone else have comment? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Deputy. We move forward to members' privilege. Is there anything under members' privilege that anyone would like to bring forward this evening? And seeing none, and we'll move forward. Upcoming meeting dates. We are scheduled for September the 27th for regular council, October the 4th for committee of adjustment and committee of the whole, October the 12th for regular council, and then October the 25th for regular council. Back onto regular schedules. Are there any edits to that schedule or any problems for any member of council? Councillor Buderick?
As previously discussed, they may have a slight issue on the 27th.
And the 27th, as I understand, you're traveling?
Yes.
And
should be good now that we're on a format like this, but
understood. thank you. Anyone else? Then we'll move to the confirmatory bylaw. And a motion to confirm the proceedings of this evening's meeting. Councillor Townend, so moved, seconded by Councillor Buderick. Any comments? And I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Motion is carried. And a motion to adjourn. Deputy, so moved, seconded by Councillor Parks. Thank you. All right, any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor for adjournment, please raise a hand. And motion is carried. We are adjourned. Have a great evening, folks. Thank you for attending this evening for those in the audience. And I hope you have a good week.